we're covered.
How do I do that fake oath?
Now, we have no applications in front of us, so I really don't feel that the
No.
administering the oath is required.
Right.
So on the first item on the agenda would be a public comments, and if anybody, either online or here, Paula again, has any comments they want to offer to the commission, this is the time to do so. Well, does she know it's at 6 and not 6:30? Okay.
It's still.
Well, I don't think we're going to wait. So hearing none, and I don't see anything for anybody on board. Oh, I also wanted to note that Commissioner Josh Knox and Tom Furlan are remote. The rest of us are present in the room this evening, with the exception of Mr. Mangan, who is absent. So let's move on to the Route 15 corridor presentation. Who wants to keep it up?
I will. So we have our presenters remote tonight. So we have Christine Ford from the Regional Planning Commission and Evan Drew from Stantec. And so this is a study that was conducted really with the Regional Planning Commission as the lead, and they were helping us out to do this. And so I'm going to hand it over actually to Christine, and she can give a little bit of a background and kick it off and over to Evan.
Hi, Christine. Welcome. I think you're on mute.
Uh-oh, we can't hear you.
Mute.
Maybe. No. Maybe.
Well, maybe she
Oh,
is.
hang on a
Right?
sec. Maybe she's not.
Are we muted?
She's.
We can't hear Evan either. So, Tom, can you say something? Can you hear us?
We didn't test that first.
No. We
Okay, we're going
Hold
to
on.
pause for a moment for some technical work.
Scott, do you have audio turned on?
I do, and I'm seeing your meters, but I'm not hearing anything from them.
And it's supposed to be
The audio is on,
coming out of where?
out of the TV.
Mhm.
There's always
Okay,
something,
so-
isn't there?
Yep.
Yep.
Check one
We're
thing.
going to just
Oh, I know what's going on. Uh,
Yeah, Josh, we're not getting any audio in the room.
They've been dusted.
Yeah. Which is a switch.
Right now?
Hey, somebody?
Christine?
Evan, can you?
No, we
You
still
say
can't
something?
hear him. Drew is. Evan is.
Okay, so we're going to make up the words. You guys go ahead and move your mouse. We're going to make up our own words to what you're saying. It might be interesting.
Oh, oh my.
We will be taking the show on the road.
Oh.
Hey,
There.
Dougie.
He's so cute. Say this afternoon. I haven't seen it. It's good. It's good.
So why don't we just take a 5-minute pause and we'll work out the technical details and restart. How about that?
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, Scott,
I
we're
I
just,
mean, worst case is we can't get that working. We can just put mine over here so people can.
well, let's see what we do. We'll take a pause for a moment and the pause that refreshes.
6:05. Take 5.
Josh, can you give us
So, Mr. Chair, I went to a really cool webinar today, if you want to hear about it.
Josh?
Put the Vermont Conservation one?
Yeah.
Then I
Nope,
registered, but I never got a link. So I was ready to go at
Scott,
1
I'm
o'clock,
gonna
but I didn't have a link to
I'm
go
gonna
to.
back.
Don't worry. I
Couldn't find one.
sent it to Catherine, I sent it to Sharon, and I sent it to
I'll just go to
To,
there's another one. I'll go to it.
Darren.
Yeah, I think you can certainly share that email.
Well,
with
I
everybody.
asked the person who put it on if he could send me the whole link because I was
Oh.
taking screenshots of all the charts.
Oh, I see.
And I said, is it okay if I do that? Because I really like this.
Yeah.
And he goes, Patty, I'll send it to you right when it's done. And he did.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and that's what you sent over,
I
right?
forwarded it to you, to
Yeah.
Darren, and
Yeah.
to.
So what I'm saying is,
Share it with the
we
planning
or
commission.
you can just send it off to the planning commission unless you're looking to have it at a. Xed out of volume, so
Sharon is really good. It'll help us.
Yeah.
Really good.
yeah.
Mute myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to see if this will-
We're muted.
So good. Took so many notes, but then he sent me everything. And I just forwarded it to you guys because
Hey, we heard somebody.
I couldn't find a link anywhere. I had to, I registered and then
That would be-
send it to you right now.
easy. It's shoe. SC.
I'm doing this in the office because I have a 3-year-old who's bedtime is
I did hear.
so nobody can hear that.
Well, we can all hear you now.
He can smell it when I'm not paying attention.
Oh,
Yeah, well, mine, as you can see, just sort of
All right, so
comes in the meeting.
Very photogenic. That's kind of good.
So
No, I've
let's
got-
see.
Yeah, his bedtime is whenever the meeting gets over, which is not good.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
getting there.
Wow.
Planning commission?
Yosh.
Right.
Ah.
Take the Zoom.
I can hear you, Dougie.
Take
Way back.
Take your recording.
Dougie! Dougie!
They echo in on it now.
Yeah, it's echoey here too.
I'm still gonna get.
So what's all this? I'm still Xed out.
turn
There's
yours-
a delay.
What do you mean? It is it.
I'm gonna send it to you from my.
No rush. I can do it
Okay,
later.
I'll do it later. Well, I'm used to my mouse. This is driving me.
Hey, this is like a bad show from the 60s or 70s.
Should we just shut that thing off?
Totally.
All right.
That's
There.
why I retired.
That seems.
I hate
Can you hear us now?
it.
We hear you.
No.
No.
Nope.
Scott, I need you to stay on mute.
What is about that?
Now can we hear you guys?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Almost.
Testing.
We can hear you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Dougie, can we get a shout out?
They're not gonna hear you because it's right here.
I'm unmuted on this. This is our audio right here. Both ways. I think we're good.
Sort of. Need the recording.
Yeah. All right. We're back.
Okay, it's 6:10.
Okay. So let's restart.
Christine.
All right, awesome. You can hear me now.
Yes.
I'm gonna-
Okay, well, I don't have too much more to offer what Catherine just said. Just wanted to let you know that I think probably most of you are familiar with the Trinity County Regional Planning Commission. We get federal transportation planning dollars every year that we make available to the municipalities to do planning work. And this project was a request from Essex. We hired Stantec to do this work, and they've been working on it for quite some time now. And so we just want to go through and give you kind of the overview and what we've been doing, and what we'd like from you is comments, suggestions, things you like, things you don't like. And just as I finish, I'll tell you that even though this is a Stein, it's tea and it's not beer. So, Evan, go ahead.
Thanks. Well, now I've got beer. I've got a Guinness glass of water here too. So,
Sensing
good
a
evening,
theme.
everybody. I'm Evan Drew with Stantec. I'm a traffic engineer for about 12 years, the last 2 with Stantec. I've worked on projects all over New England, from planning through construction for state, municipal governments, safety related, highway, like, traffic is sometimes a jack of all trades, and I seem to be that jack. So, but CCRPC came to us with this project, and it was exciting to start working on it, to realize, and I'll get into that. We went into the Essex vision in the master planning document. So I'll get into that here and start sharing my my presentation. But it was a cool little project, so I'm happy to share with you tonight. Let me just see if I can share my screen.
Delay the video. That
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So again, this is a study along Vermont Route 15. We had 2 assignments under this task for the Planning Commission. We reviewed speed data, just kind of an analysis of raw speed data through the town, and then took that speed data and conducted a study of measures and improvements we could make along Vermont 15 that, as I mentioned before, matched the Essex master plan. So let me go here, which is the right page to press. There we go. So tonight I'm going to go through the background of the studies, including the speed analysis, any sort of findings from that, any other ancillary reviews we did, such as some safety items, and then what we came up with, some recommendations from short-term through long-term potential opportunities along the corridor. I will say this is not necessarily the level of a scoping study where there's true public engagement and maybe some environmental inspection. This is kind of a preliminary review before that. And we're not necessarily looking for an action or vote from the commission, but as Christine was saying, more of a feedback, follow-ups, are we meeting the town's vision of what they want to see on the corridor? And those comments will inform kind of our final report to package up and share with the town and the Planning Commission. So I've already kind of gone through this. Where was the scope of our area? It was along Vermont 15 from 289, or the circumferential highway interchange, and heading east towards Sand Hill Road. We started the project by reviewing the Essex Town Center Master Plan, which was adopted in March of 2021. We scoured it for all the transportation objectives and vision for the town through the area. We identified 4 key elements, 3 of which I think are very important for transportation. Well, all 4 are important for transportation. Increasing the residential density, so attracting more people, which for transportation means more trips, more potential trips. Expanding the town's uses, so potential mixed-use developments, or kind of the future of how people are, what do we do now? Live, work, play. Creating neighborhoods and places that people want to be, and making sure that the town can be prepared to establish the right infrastructure and policies in order to accomplish these goals as smooth as possible. Also coming from the master plan were the priorities. This came from our kickoff meeting with the town and the Planning Commission too, was the importance of maintaining or improving the bicycle and pedestrian access throughout the corridor. But also realizing that Vermont 15 is a critical artery through the town. It's somewhat it's been defining the town as a commuter roadway, between Greater Burlington to points east and north, and it's probably one of the straighter highways in the area. So what comes with that is the increase of speeds and people trying to pass through. The recent developments like Essex Experience start drawing people there as well, increasing the number of people interacting with the people passing through. So with all this, some of our actionable concepts were focused on improving pedestrian mobilities and roadway crossings and bicycle accommodations that would improve the safety elements of riding and walking along 15 and crossing it as well. And I will say there are going to be parts of this where it will be a bit data heavy. So I'm okay if I'm going too fast. If anyone has any questions once I get into that, I'm open to hearing that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. So in our kickoff with the town, it was with Dennis when he was with the town. He mentioned the importance of trying to keep speeds controlled along 15 through your town. So we reviewed VTrans's basically guidelines on establishing speed limits for the state. And speed limits are set by the Vermont Traffic Committee, usually informed by an engineering study, and a change in a speed limit has to be requested and approved by the traffic operations engineer, which meet only a few times per year. It's a process in order to just simply change your speed limits. And this matches the Federal Highways guidance from the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD, that speed limits, speed postings should generally be within 5 miles per hour of the 85th percentile speed of drivers from a speed study. But as we all know, it's one thing to place a sign somewhere to tell people to be a certain speed, but there's other things that influence people's behaviors, such as roadway geometries, sight distances, if there's pedestrian or bicycles, other modes of transportation, and how much excess speed may be contributing to crashes. So instead of just simply reposting, both Federal Highway and VTrans suggest other opportunities to improve conditions, including the sight distance and warning signs, speed feedback signs, all levels of measures. So when we kicked this off, CCRPC was able to send their staff out to collect the raw data. This occurred in November of 2021, before real snow flew, or school was still in session, colleges are in session. Really, it as much as it may seem, well, how are volumes very high there? It's actually pretty typical to collect information around that time. CCRPC set the automatic traffic recorders at 5 locations. You can see the 5 here, but between Billy Butler and Old Stage, between Old Stage and Essex Way, between Essex Way and the town center, and town center to Sand Hill, and then Sand Hill out to Allen Martin Drive. So along that segment, this is kind of where it gets data heavy, but I'll try to clarify. There seems like there's a lot going on here, but I wanted to go segment by segment of what our findings were. Likely a lot of this won't be a surprise to the town, but it's good to share the data anyway. So segment A, between Billy Butler Drive and Old Stage Road, it's posted at 40 miles per hour. VTrans recently did a signals optimization project through the area, improving the signal timings, improving progression, which may be a contributor to this. But we noted that heading westbound, the 85th percentile speed, and as I mentioned, 85th percentile informs postings, was 48 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone, between 2 signalized intersections. Eastbound coming away from the interchange, it was more reasonable at 36. That might mean that a lot of the volumes coming off the interchange haven't exactly reached speed. Also, you have the significant grade as I'm showing at the bottom. As we move further east, so between Old Stage and Essex, posting is still 40, and we're seeing the westbound is 36 miles per hour. They're going up the hill. And eastbound is 41. So this is a little bit more normalized. You know, you're within 5 miles per hour of the 85th percentile speed. It may be due to the horizontal curve and the vertical curve assisting with keeping people slow. So between Essex and the Essex Center, obviously a much larger area, so you have a little bit of a variance in how people are driving along the corridor here. At about Sunset Drive, if you go from west to east, it's reduced from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. But as you can kind of tell from the Google Earth image here, the nature of the roadway doesn't necessarily change, other than the number of driveways. There is the signal at the shopping center, but what we found was going westbound, the 85th percentile speed was about 43, and eastbound was nearly 40. So people are carrying that speed across this kind of transitionary area. So we collected segment D was between this town center and Sandhill Road. You know, downtown, all the residential and businesses and the churches are pretty close to the roadway. I would say the nature of the roadway is a bit different here. However, even with the postings at 35, the 85th percentile speeds were from 38 miles per hour westbound to almost 44 eastbound. So pretty significant speed being carried through the town center from what we could find. And finally, in the last segment, as you head to the eastbound of the town, as you start opening up the roadway, you're seeing 85th percentile speeds of 43 and 44. So again, almost 5 miles per hour over the posted speeds. And that's even including that there is that transition from 35 to 40 as well. So like I said, a lot of this may not be too surprising to anybody. I'm curious, I know I just rolled through that, but does anyone have any questions, any concerns about what they're seeing? Do they see that this data reflects their normal day, I guess, that you'd see, other than when people are stopped during the commute at some of the signals in town?
Yeah, I'd say it's
Just a traffic corridor. It's not very exciting.
You catching that, Evan?
Sorry, I barely heard that, I think. I heard something about exciting.
Not very exciting.
Not very exciting. Yeah, well, yeah, I think I heard the not part too.
Center.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I need to turn that that's our mics.
Problem is that they're not hearing that in Zoom, or another hearing in Zoom.
We can hear through the community development box, and it might be just kind of a little further away from the mic.
Yeah, one second.
Yep. Yeah, no worries.
Scott, try one more time.
I've got an engineer on it right
now. Okay. So folks, until we get that figured out, just remember to speak up and in this direction.
Yeah, that sounds good. Whatever he's doing right now.
Over there a little more.
Or close to it.
So Evan, we were hearing that it's consistent with people's experience and traffic corridor that's not very exciting.
Well, I think one of the things, not necessarily about excitement, is it doesn't necessarily change, right? I mean, your roadway is about the same cross section over the whole area. There's not necessarily, and we can get into that, but it doesn't seem like there's a reason other than seeing brake lights in front of people trying to at the signal or trying to take turns. Generally, people are just having a pretty high prevailing speed. When you're out there, it doesn't look necessarily too fast because of how much pavement there is out there and how wide the shoulders are. But the reason why I wanted to bring up everything about what it takes to set a posting from VTrans is, if you have an official speed study done trying to convince an agency to reduce speeds, they would do most of what I'm showing you today, and they would go, well, if I read this right, we should probably raise speeds. That's sometimes the caveats they want to throw out there. And I know that the town, or we know that the town doesn't want to do that. So that goes back into, if you can't post people down to go a little bit slower, what are some of the other things you can do? So but I'm glad to hear that the data is mimicking what people saw. What I saw out there, I thought it represented that. And I'm glad to hear the locals think that as well. So I thought I had it in here. I must have hit it. But I guess I hid it from my presentation mode, but I can go through a little bit of the crash history here.
Evan, it might
almost.
There's a slide here that showed crash history, 2016 to 2020.
Yeah, I think it's printed. I think I must have hidden it from the presentation slides, but that's okay. What it's really just saying is you have about 50% of your crashes through the corridor. So we looked at the crashes between 2016 and about 2020. So almost 4 to 5 years of data. Specific to the section these sections that was part of the segment study to the west. There was 24 crashes in about 4 years. Half of those were rear ends. Rear ends typically can occur when people are exceeding this, exceeding speeds, not giving them enough distance to slow down or to adjust in case anything's happening in front of them. And we didn't really see anything that stood out in terms of weather, time of day, severity. About 14% of crashes were injuries. There wasn't any fatalities that we recorded there. But we do look at the crash histories to also help inform some of the recommendations that we put forward. So I will skip ahead. So in absence of just posting people down, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the ITE, and their Complete Streets program, they call it the 3 E's of calming traffic. So there's engineering, there's education and enforcement. So because I'm an engineer, I'm not giving people tickets, and I'm trying to educate people as best as I can kind of rely on the engineering. So there's 4 methods of engineering. There's non-intrusive measures. So measures, I'll get into that, and ways to control people vertically. So, vertical bumps in the road, and horizontal is tightening the cross section. And there's some other measures in here too that I'll get into. So non-intrusive measures, you may see these pretty often. Some restriping, speed feedback signs are very effective, at least in the interim. People sometimes get used to them. But these are ways that you don't have to, they're relatively low cost because you do not have to adjust grading, curbing, paved area. These are things you might be able to just do with projects that continue to move forward, or you can buy some of these radars off the shelf. That's the pros. They're easy, they're quickly implemented. The cons, though, is, as anyone with feedback signs, it goes, if it's in the same spot for too long and no one's seeing any enforcement, then people may forget about it. Restriping is very limited because some restriping requires modification of shoulders, things like that. Vertical measures. So these are much more intrusive. You start messing with the roadway people are driving on. Vertical measures include speed humps and tables, raised crosswalks and intersections. These are considered effective, however, not when people are going 45 miles per hour. These are typically used for lower speed roadways, so your kind of very local residential streets. And they take longer to properly design. I mean, they do have ones you can buy off the shelf, but it's a little bit of a longer term implementation, plus some public coordination and some buy-in there. But overall, I'll say that we did not consider any vertical measures of a potential countermeasure to the speeds through Essex. The reasoning is, and I can get into that a little later, but what we wanted to do was present to the town actionable ideas that would also not necessarily put the town on the hook for accepting Vermont 15 through the section as a Vermont, accepting the highway over from VTrans, right? So once you start making enough changes to VTrans roadway, they want you to take it. It's not just the roadway, right? There's signals, there's a whole lot that comes with that. So we had several meetings with the town, with CCRPC, and that was definitely a goal that we wanted to continue to not just, we could have thrown more on the table, but if they weren't actionable and it would have been at a much greater cost to the town, we didn't exactly go too deep into it. So I just wanted to put that out there. These are some examples of the vertical measures. You may see some raised crosswalks at high pedestrian locations. Again, 30 miles per hour or lower makes those speed tables more effective. Less calls to fix people's cars from the car shop. Horizontal measures, I think, is probably the most likely larger opportunity for Vermont 15.
Just for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Want to switch our audio again?
Yep. I hear a little echo, but.
All right. Can you hear us?
Yep. Just a little reverb. Nothing I can't handle.
All right. We're in good shape. So.
Oh, yep. You sound good.
Although I can't hear
actually, we
him.
can't hear him now.
Right.
Scott was still the same problem. You.
Testing.
Scott?
Yeah.
Can we just continue?
You on the other whatever.
Okay. All right.
Testing.
Can you mute?
Mic check.
Evan, I'm really sorry. Time's up.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
You mute? Oh, okay.
Please speak.
Evan, can you give us a sound check?
Check, check.
I hear him, but you turn that
Gotta
down.
Yeah.
We just need-
You guys sound a lot better now.
People need just to speak.
So
Yeah,
we're
we just
looking,
need you to mute your Zoom screen. I know you can't, but I'm just relayed that to the engineer. Awesome, thank you. And all right, Evan, continue. Thanks for
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
yes.
All right. So horizontal measures to calm traffic. So this is also an intrusive technique. It involves messing with shoulders, curbing, which then may, depending on the implementation, affect drainage, utilities, everything, right? So it is considered an intrusive, it can be an intrusive technique. Bump outs, things on the outside, tightening and making kind of a tunneling effect, or the potential of providing median islands or raised medians in order to get that tunneling effect and slow down from within. Again, they're effective. These are more typical for higher speed roadways since you do not have as much of the risk of damaging vehicles with the vertical measures. But again, costly and influence maintenance as well. So some examples of these, like I said, median islands, curb extensions, trying to push, change the nature of the roadway so people can basically get a sense of, oh, I should probably be slowing down here. There's some other measures as well. These are some other engineered techniques that may be elements that are important for other aspects of a road. For example, enhancing bicycle facilities, either crossings or along the roadway, or enhancing pedestrian facilities, again, along the roadway or in the crossings, are opportunities to make sure that people are aware that these things can happen, but also to show that there are changes along this roadway that I need to slow down for. This is an example on Route 15. Some of you may know, so it's near St. Mike's. There is a pedestrian hybrid beacon. So a more substantial implementation of a pedestrian crossing that highlights, this is an act that could happen. The signals, while generally are blank, so people are just passing through, it does have some sort of slowing effect, and also provides some control in the case that pedestrians do need to cross. After going back into the ETC Next master plan, as we saw, the goals of the town were to, again, enhance or expand the pedestrian bicycle connections. This is from our field visit, which I can't believe was last November. So we just identified some of these areas that were provided some pedestrian connectivity. What was great with the snow is to show where people are you can really see where people are walking, what they're using, just to show some of the gaps in the network, particular to the Essex experience area and the interchange. On the right is the kind of end of the little stub of sidewalk. That's on the north side of Route 15. So on that empty parcel between Maple Fields and Old Stage Road. So costs and time frame. I was trying to put into some terms the implementation possibilities of some of these calming measures. The time frame and the costs below are derived from safety studies that I've done in the relatively recently. However, I do think they're a bit dated. As we know, inflation does not go without hitting some other aspects of engineering and transportation. So, as well as timeframes, right? Trying to budget these type of things. So, I would say if I could do this again, I would change the costs and the timeframes of these implementations. Short term is probably more like the 1 to 3. Midterm is 3 to 5, and long term is probably 5 and up. Costs too. I mean, I re-roofed a house a few years ago. I mean, 10K gets you a new roof sometimes, depending on the house size. So maybe tough in this market to buy any substantial improvements. Probably below 10K, but I did try to make a good estimate of that. So as you go higher with the costs, the further out you have to plan for it, and the more you have to budget for, or try to find grant opportunities or funding for it from elsewhere. So we do have some I do want to share some segments and some of the concepts. Again, these concepts are again conceptual. They're not fully designed. However, we did engineer them to be proper dimensions. Again, this is part into the second assignment that we had from CCRPC. So specifically, we looked at the concepts for improvements from Vermont 289 over to Essex Way and maybe a bit beyond. So first, I'll show the 289 interchange to Billy Butler Drive. So this is kind of on the short to midterm. We proposed, or we recommended that the bicycle lane markings, which they kind of end at the signal, they kind of skip the signal or are continued through the intersection, so people know, the bicycles know where to go. We suggested finishing what's remaining of the shared use paths, and along with that, opportunities for gateway development, like a plaza with a map, things like that, to help make it more friendly to pedestrians and bicycles. So that kind of realizes that vision. In terms of some other things we wanted to improve were potential access points, right? So Maple Fields has a pretty wide secondary driveway, not necessarily at the signal. There's just some opportunities to kind of control some of those access points, so people aren't confused about, you know, who's coming in, who's coming out, who's using the signal, and who isn't for a specific segment. Long term, in meeting the town's vision, we thought that it was a good idea to, you know, continue along 289 with the shared use path. However, we did hear about how that may be difficult with VTrans and would require more coordination. We took a look at the approximate right-of-way and the potential of adding sidewalks or a multi-use path along the north side of Vermont 15. We thought about, you know, basically through the segment, you know, speed feedback signs are probably a good idea, especially as we saw that's up to like 45 through the segment, pretty tight between the intersections. And long term, to match the town's vision, is right in the middle of these two intersections would be a good opportunity for a consolidated pedestrian crossing, likely given some sort of rectangular rapid flashing beacon, the RFBs that the towns has in other roadways, or potentially a pedestrian hybrid beacon like the portion of Vermont 15 near St. Mike's in Colchester there. We thought about putting a median in here, maybe a raised median with some landscaping. That would probably be a pretty effective way to slow traffic down. However, now you're really starting to change the nature of the roadway, and that would potentially trigger VTrans to say, well, now this is, you know, we don't necessarily want something like this in the middle of our road. So you take it over. So we took that out. We also suggested some protection and formalization of the bike lane to get them out of the roadway, but we can kind of move the curb a little bit more in the roadway to get that tunneling effect and also keep pedestrians and bicycles off to the side. So one of the things that we talked about, okay, well, how do you go forward and try to get these things built, right? How do you get the money for this? When we talked with Dennis Onowiso earlier in the year, when we met on these type of things, there was a lot of excitement for the potential of the parcels along the north side of Vermont Route 15, and the potential to provide these type of improvements as part of mitigation from whatever may come with that, depending on its uses. You know, it was clear to me that along the Essex experience, this pathway was well used. It was great design, and it would only be within character of the area to mimic that on the north side, and then to provide a formal connection for that. So that's kind of why we went forward with some of this. Is you know, where some of the questions I've even had is, you know, where can you kind of try to get some funding for this? But it would be great to just have some of these on hand and for suggestions for anyone who could come through. So again, to inform our recommendations based on the master plan, the idea of, again, having these places for pedestrians and bicycles to congregate for wayfinding. There are, whether official or unofficial, there are bicycle routes that run through here. I think Old Stage Road is one of them. So any way we can provide some sort of benching, wayfinding along these corners would start building up the roadside, not necessarily within the road, but the roadside to hopefully trigger to people that there is a nature of this, that the town wants it to be friendly for all users, and hopefully, you know, can slow people down. So let me just skip ahead to, we kind of continue the similar type of improvements, the north side here. So the north side between Old Stage Road and Essex Way is the toughest in the whole corridor that we looked at for right of way. The blue line here is the right of way. You can tell that it's pretty tight, right? This is the only area that we reviewed that had, residential driveways. Sorry, I keep skipping around, that you'd have to cross. This is likely the toughest area to provide pedestrian improvements on the north side, just because of the coordination required, the utility relocation. We did try to squeeze as much as we could into the roadway, the roadside. We were able to take a few feet away, but we still wanted to continue the bicycle lanes, and there's also the left turn lane as well. So there was some limitations there, but we tried to represent some of that. And also through the ETC next plan, we had noted that one of the goals of the town was to continue the path here, the Essex bike path, somewhere to the north side. And what's the best place to cross? Initially, the plan kind of noted this intersection with Saybrook and Londonderry, but from the field visit, there's a lot going on, right? There's a turning lane here. It comes at the base of a hill. It's a skewed intersection, so we wouldn't want to make this area a prime movement for pedestrians to cross because there's so much else going on. But we did suggest enhancing what path there is on the south side, and provide a crossing further east. There is this parcel, I forget, does it have like solar panels or something like that? We kind of talked it over in one of our meetings, RPC and the town. And, instead of necessarily dropping it into this kind of easement, I think it's a utility corridor, dropping it to the east and providing a separated crossing so people aren't confused with all the turn lanes and everything like that, to provide access for the pedestrians and bikes, but also another potential for pedestrian hybrid beacons or RFBs to show this movement's possible, and also to have a kind of a gateway effect to hopefully again slow people down a bit. So those are just kind of the long and the short of it. Again, it's not, without speed tables and some medians, there is some limitations thinking about what the town can handle. So I guess with that, I was curious if anyone had any thoughts of what they're seeing here. I have some lists of, long-term, medium-term, but I think people can understand, what's easy and what's not. Oops, sorry, I don't know what just happened. Yeah, let me go to here. So that's so the final deliverable on this is some of these concepts to include in the report, with some costs. We did have a cost estimate associated with that. I'm sorry, I do not have it right on hand, but it is in our report for all these options. So we do have some numbers available, so again, the idea is to take some comments. Again, there's not really many actions to be taken, but simply, is this type of thing matching the town's vision of what they want to see the Vermont 15 corridor look like? Any of the concepts I have shared with Darren, and the reports are out there somewhere. But with review from the Planning Commission, we'd like to finalize our report, include any of the comments that we can to inform it. And then that's something that the CCRPC and the town can work with and maybe coordinate with VTrans or potential developers that may be coming in to start being able to point to the report to say, hey, this is some of the stuff we like. It's part of our master plan. We've had someone kind of take that and take it a little further. And we'd like to see this move forward. So that's kind of what I have today. And I'm looking forward to any initial thoughts and comments, or if you want me to share anything else, I'm glad to do it.
Well,
let's bat this around a little bit.
um,
Before we go to the commissioners,
Staff.
do you guys have anything you want to add to this or anything?
No.
Kevin covered it pretty well.
So
So commissioners, your thoughts
I'm gonna start
online?
Tom.
I'm not sure what we're being asked. We're being asked that we just think this makes sense and these are the options, or
Well,
are we supposed to choose something?
I don't
I
think
think we're supposed to choose and just see what your thoughts are. I mean, I can offer what I think and you can see if this is what you're looking for. You're talking about some of the vertical measures along that corridor and quite frankly, I see with snow plowing and stuff like that in that corridor, I see
almost
any vertical measure is going to be is not going to be sustainable. Just because of the
snow
plows. For no other reason than that. And one of the concepts that Josh made sure was captured in the ETC next stuff was better connected, more cohesive, better connected. So I'm looking at a lot of these
what you call
the horizontal options,
and a lot
of those I see them being causing conflict
with
pedestrians.
And I've seen them
in
Burlington where they've done
the bump outs at some of the intersections. It not just slows things down, but it actually makes, in my opinion, corners dangerous because you actually have to go out into the other lane in order to make a turn.
So it
actually, to me, elevates
some of the danger
with vehicles. So
I mean, if
the speed isn't a huge issue, which I guess that's going to be an opinion.
I like
that if
using
more signage
and stuff.
I'm not sure what physically we can do without
conflicting
with the bicycle traffic
or
making the bicycle traffic start to share with the cars more than it does, and that's a bigger concern.
The new
bike lane by Maple Fields for the entrance onto 289
supposed
to be a bike lane, but it's turned into the on-ramp for the 289.
So it's
it's a lot of conflict.
The
measures aren't going to necessarily be done
and have
the result we're looking for.
So I guess
the question might be, what are we actually looking for?
Just a quick clarifying question, Evan. You didn't include any actual bulb outs in the concepts, right? It's pedestrian crossings.
So at the pedestrian crossings, yeah, there's no raising of the vertical roadway, and we did not propose actual bump outs, but in some of our concepts, we can take a few feet away from the edges, but without, those start to affect the bike lanes and, some of the medians and things like that. But no official bulb outs, just kind of using what's already there. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, I deal with some other municipalities and it's the same thing. It's really exciting to try to provide better bump outs, better, shorter crossings for pedestrians. But then, I'm more on the engineering side. So I'm like, well, can a fire truck make that turn?
Right.
And, sometimes the answer is like, well, we didn't think about that. And it's like, all right, well, that's pretty important for certain things. So I completely hear you about that. So yeah, we didn't really do too much to adjust any of the turning radius because again, this is a state highway too. I mean, you have significant truck traffic, so there's not too much you can do to really squeeze. I mean, we did make an attempt to squeeze some of the lanes, right? So they may go from 11 feet to 10 feet or 12 feet to 11 feet, but you can't really do too much else that maybe a more metropolitan area could do. Like I think in Boston, they have some areas where they do 9 feet, they can get away with it, right? That those do kind of take those type of things off the table. But yep, sorry.
As far as the
enhanced crossing, that the crossing mechanism by Fanny Allen is I think is pretty effective because it doesn't stop traffic unless there's somebody to use it. It doesn't have a negative impact on traffic unless the pedestrian is triggered everything.
So it's
to me it's
that's
an effective
tool.
Even though it's 35, and 35 is
Not
measured
45.
speed. Yeah.
You can still time them. I've put them in on other highway. I think I forget if I had a picture in there, but you can use them on wider, 4-lane highways, stuff like that. That's actually where they recommend it over RFBs and things like that, is for the speeds we're seeing on Route 15 and the 4 lanes. Yeah, again, on Ethan Allen too. But yeah, I mean, again, going back through the ETC Next plan, I mean, there was a lot of talk about gateways. How do we make like a gateway? And we, in our report, we did suggest some signing, right? Like, entering Essex, like something vertical, something big that people can see that there's a difference as you're entering this town. But I think those pedestrian hybrid beacons, the enhanced crossings, do kind of act like that. I think they do act as a gateway of, this is where people walk, this is where people bike, this is a different road than you may have driven a mile before you got here. So I'm glad to hear there's some positive attitude of, well, at least one, I guess, maybe at the crossing.
Well,
they do come with an education. Like, those pedestrian hybrid beacons, if you put them in a town where you didn't teach anyone how to use them, then it's not necessarily as positive. But an education campaign or seeing them before is definitely helpful.
So Tom,
yeah, I'm just going to echo your comment. I used to bike commute through here, and I didn't have the patience to wait for a traffic light, so I would just go through 1-lane traffic, wait for a break, go through another lane traffic. But if there was the on-demand thing, like in front of Fanny Allen, I would use that. And another thing comes to mind at the Old Town Center. When you push the pedestrian crossing sign, they'll put up no right turn signs will come up, and a lot of people ignore those. So you can get the walk signal, but then cars are still zipping through there because it's a weird red light. That light will turn red for a second, then you'll get a green arrow typically. So when people see it turn red, they just keep going because they assume by in a second it's going to turn, they're going to get their green arrow. But if a pedestrian has pushed the button, that's not the case, but it's too late then. So it's kind of a weird intersection there. So I'm in favor of the kind of on-demand, in the middle, not at traffic light kind of crossing.
Yeah, we wouldn't. I mean, the one I'm showing here we wouldn't take it away, but it is consolidating into its own thing will definitely draw some attention to it. I believe Billy Butler also has the blank out signs that say no right turn, but again, I don't know how often people are crossing at Billy Butler, so I'm curious of how often it actually comes up rather than when I was out there doing field work.
Yeah, I don't have much experience with that intersection.
Okay. Yep.
Patty.
Yeah,
I got a bunch. So if everybody else wants to go first,
I don't
want
want
to
take the
take
air.
the air out of the room.
Well, let's give them just some high level comments.
Okay.
Okay.
So we don't have to get into granular detail.
All right.
All right.
My
My high level comment
just
just
from
from
what
what
Tom
Tom
said,
said
on
on
Martin
Martin
Drive,
Drive.
Alan
On Martin.
there's a
There's a
yellow
yellow blinking light in the middle of Alan Martin.
and there's
And
a
there's this
lady
lady that's
crossing
crossing the road with a cane, and
there's a
there's a crosswalk, and the
sidewalk
sidewalks are
high
high, full of snow. There's no
place
place for the pedestrian to even go on either side of the road.
and
And half the time, the cars don't even stop.
My
My
husband
husband almost got
hit
running on Alan Martin
because he had
because he had to run in the road because the sidewalks are plowed. And
he
he
saw
saw
that
that
cars
just
go
go
when the light blinking
yellow, and there's an actual crosswalk there.
So
we really have a speed problem.
and
I think that
VTrans,
my 2 cents is I think VTrans' overall vision
should be
complete streets because that's nationally where towns are going. I actually researched, the only 2 things I'll mention because I don't want to take up time, was that the complete street program I researched with the Federal Highway Administration is moving toward complete streets now. Actually, I have the date as of March 2022, it released a report to Congress that took steps towards making complete streets the now default model for funding and designing federally controlled roads. Now, if it's a state highway, there's also let's see, there's grants that you can get through the Federal Highway Administration, U.S. Department of Transportation under the State Planning and Research
For a
Program.
second, let's make sure we keep focus on his.
Yeah, but
his
okay, in a
presentation.
nutshell, I just feel that listening to this whole thing, I hear what you're saying. I wish the overall vision of V-Trans was more pedestrian oriented. I feel that it's only highway and traffic count oriented, and that doesn't jive for me.
It's a good comment about, V-Trans would say they invested money. I'm not speaking for V-Trans. Just as a comment, V-Trans they'll say that they invested money on optimizing the traffic signal systems to make them operate better. Some of that goes unsaid. It means people are moving through more efficiently, which efficiently may mean faster. I have seen it in downtowns, not necessarily here, where the business owners complain because now cars are moving faster. They're not seeing the businesses. They're not. They aren't as the sudden stops for people in crosswalks are more sudden because people are carrying a high rate of speed. So it is a tough position to coordinate with V-Trans on these type of things.
Here. That's why we have this plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
I
like everything I see here, so I appreciate the education.
I don't really have any.
Any other comments other than that?
Well, everyone's a traffic engineer. You could have said everyone was speeding through here. I've added a decimal spot to it. So, but no, I appreciate the comment.
Dave? Josh?
Yeah, a lot of dittos to what's been said. What I was going to add, it just goes to show the difficulty that we're going to face in making this more pedestrian friendly. I was really surprised by the 48 mile per hour in that segment. And like you said, the vertical measures aren't going to work through here. And we need to do, I like the various approaches that we sort of have up right now about sidewalk and multi-use and the place finding, because that can have sort of the psychological effect of slowing things down. But again, lots of dittos, and it just shows the difficulty of getting to the point where we want to be with a walkable, better connected, more cohesive. I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. Evan,
thank you very much.
No, thank you all. Darren has some of our concepts. Again, they're still drafts. There are some things I would make changes to, but I think the idea was for some opportunity for some comment and some chewing on them. And I can maybe let Darren speak to that a little bit more.
And what you may get back is maybe need to just let this percolate for a little bit.
Exactly.
And
I think
if we bring this up for another discussion at our next planning meeting, when people have had a chance to look at it and see what we might have thoughts
about
this presentation,
and then we
can circulate those back.
Yeah. So Evan, you had mentioned hoping to have comments back a little bit on the sooner side. So the next meeting would be the 13th. Is the 27th too far out for your timeline?
I don't think so. I mean, I've received my comments from CCRPC and you guys before, so this would just help inform that. That's not slowing anything down. But I think it's important to have the comments from the commission.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to share some pictures of some of the wayfinding that Stantec has done in Massachusetts, just to again provide a little bit more context on some of this stuff. But like a crossing in yeah, this is a cross. Yeah, anyway, this is a crossing in, I think this was Newburyport. So it's more than just a crossing, right? We have benches, we have wayfinding. It is near an intersection, but this is a busy, I think this was Route 1. So again, just showing that there's opportunities out there. So I figured I'd share a little bit of the pictures because pictures are more fun. anyway, I'm all set. But I appreciate the comments, and yeah, looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts when you chew on it a little bit.
Could I ask
a quick question?
Yeah.
Evan,
when you
Yes.
met Dennis, did
and you mentioned something in this presentation that at some point,
V-Trans
V-Trans is gonna want the town to
Take
take
over
over that portion of road.
was
Was
there any
there any discussion about that with Dennis when you were talking about things with he and Oliso?
Yeah, there was some of that conversation, and then we spoke with Aaron Martin after. I mean, he was really, again, reflecting what Dennis was saying too. Of there's a certain, and it may depend on the V-Trans side. I don't know every project manager or everyone at V-Trans, but you know we don't want to be in a situation where, okay, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, where it goes from the state to the town. And so they tried to give their best estimates into where that threshold would be. This document has not been coordinated with directly with V-Trans. So I think beyond the report I've been putting together, there may, I don't know the avenue for it, but there probably should be some talk with V-Trans again. I don't know how that would be set up, but you know, emphasizing the concerns of the town. It's pretty clear in your master plan. It's clear from the data we've seen, you know, what's going on out here, and just talking with them and trying to plan out what could happen here. I know Aaron probably doesn't want to take over 3 signal. You know, there's costs to that. There's costs to the town, and so I was trying to be very sensitive to that.
right?
But to find that fine line where V-Trans would accept some of these too, I'm still not completely sure where that line would be.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add one more comment and provide some context as to what this report will be used for. You know, there isn't a specific preferred alternative. It's really a bucket and a bundle of different approaches to achieve these goals. So our sense of how this would be used is to put these on paper and say, these are projects the town would like to implement, whether it's through a development project that comes in the door and saying, please put this in, or getting grants from V-Trans or from CCRPC, which ultimately gets a lot of its funding for the state. So that's sort of, you know, we're setting the stage for these improvements to happen over a longer period of time. So just thinking about that as you review the project or review the report and the recommendations, and just sort of, you know, thinking about you know, do these fit in the long-term grand scheme of things, not necessarily even today or 5 years from now, but in the future.
Cool. And I think it's
as Josh pointed out, it brings to light some of the challenges with
the
ETC Next
ideas and goals. So it's all progress. So Evan,
thank you again. Thank you very much for presenting tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Sorry
for all the technical difficulties.
That's good.
Thank
Gave me a little time to breathe.
Thank you, Christine, for your work too.
Thank you, Christine.
all right. Let's
move on.
The next
point we have is minutes. So we have a motion for the minutes of September 8th.
I move we approve the minutes of September 8th.
Sure.
Tom did.
You second?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Does anyone want to offer any amendments to the minutes as presented?
Hearing
none. All those in favor of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Motion carries 6-0.
I'm sorry to mention John's feedback email.
Well, we're gonna still chew on this.
Right.
John did have some feedback. Why don't you
We can
make sure
send
that
it.
and let's put it in the packet for next meeting as well. Even if we don't do
too much
on it, let's just make
sure
sure everybody has access to it.
And we added the operating
procedures
to the
to the agenda tonight. In the past, we said we want to wait until there's
7
people, but I wanted to throw to, we do have 6.
and in
In
the
the interest of not just continually pushing something down the road,
one
wanted to see if the 6 members here
are
willing
to look
at the operating procedures that were presented to us and
move
to accept them for this year.
This year's almost over.
Oh, stop.
I'm telling her, yeah.
I would take a motion if you
I
were
heard
gonna
that,
do
sure. I make the motion
to
to go ahead and view the
Procedure.
well, we
We have them in front of us, so we want to accept it, we want to get into them and maybe we can discuss them.
Oh, I want to.
okay. So
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the operating procedures that
we're presented.
presented to us tonight.
We have, I mean, if you're looking at
the version that I sent out.
with
Yes, this includes your changes.
yeah,
So I don't wanna
the
be
assumptive.
that those are the ones that you all want to do.
fine.
It's fine if it is, but there are,
If that's the
the version we're working from, there are questions in there that I think you gotta take
5-10
minutes
minutes
to
address
address
the
or
bed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Patty,
Patty, do you want to withdraw that motion
Yeah.
and change it just to?
I want to withdraw it.
Okay, do we have an agreement tonight to look at the operating procedures tonight with 6 people?
Yes.
Good.
Tom,
Tom,
Josh,
Josh, you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
correct.
I'm okay.
Okay. So
So David, you said you had
questions that you
that
wanted
you
to
wanted to
just
suggest we look at
Sure.
and answer.
I mean, I look
And I looked through the copy they gave us.
Page 3 that's answered already. Added the video. I don't know which version that's like. But then on page 4, I put a note in
that said the statute
specifically indicates
section 8
not
does not apply.
judicial proceedings, see line 201.
What letter?
We're on line 139. Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
I don't have one.
Sorry, where are we, Dave?
I'm trying to see.
Letter F, page 4, line 139.
Okay, F.
So it reads, this is part of the procedure for
Regular.
and special meetings.
right. So following.
so let's
Let's skip page numbers because the copy that was online this week
do not
does
have
not have
F.
F at 139.
Gotcha.
So let's just use the.
When you say online, do you mean on the Google Drive?
So I
So I think I was trying to draw
that there was a conflict between
something
around
line 139 with
then
line
201, which basically
so 199 and 202 basically says public hearing shall be conducted as outside judicial
seating.
pursuant to
Blah,
blah,
blah.
blah, blah.
I'm trying to figure out
what it is I meant.
in this.
Okay.
So let's see.
So that's
Section 7.
here it is.
Let me pull up statute, Dave. That might be helpful.
So F
starts off reading at each meeting, there shall be a
Cross out.
10-minute,
so that it reads a period of time reserved for public comment. Yeah, that's the one I
So I
want.
said in my notes,
Statute
indicates
indicates
that
section,
section H,
which is the
the
open,
open meeting section,
does
does not apply to
quasi-
quasi-judicial proceedings.
Yeah, so
Sounds-
why don't I?
Oh, I see, I see where you are.
If you
If you look at his changes,
the
one that you sent out with
His
his changes,
go to
go
that.
to that one.
Yeah.
And so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna pull up statute, and so this is.
Tell you what,
Let's
let's pull up the copy
On the
on the screen.
so Dave,
Dave,
let's
let's
find it.
find the place in the document.
I don't-
I don't think any of us are looking at the same version right
All
now.
right, you want the one that is on Google Drive?
The
That's the only one that we can say was equally shared out.
Okay.
I know it's
And it's that Dave's
version.
version, that's what Dave's asking.
Yeah, so what I did, Dave, was take all your comments and put them into the document.
Yep.
The book version that we had on our phone. So here's what is on Google Drive. Here's what we're looking at.
So the comment side or
So
I think
I think I see where I was struggling.
We have
We
two
have two things that
possibly
could be
in conflict. So we have
H that says that basically we shall conduct all our meetings and business in
This
accordance with
with
Vermont's open
meeting.
meeting laws.
And then,
but further down in 201,
it basically says that we're going to
conduct them as
quasi
judicial
proceedings
pursuant to a different section of statute.
So they're just, it's pointing to two different ways
that we're going to
our
conduct our
business
business
that are potentially in
in conflict at times.
Mhm.
And I think to address that, it depends on whether you're in a quasi judicial hearing. If you're reviewing an application, you might have to conduct business differently than a presentation like tonight. I also want to note, so on Google Drive, the comments are not showing up in line with
That's why
the,
I was
yeah, where they are supposed to be in the document. So understanding that folks have reviewed this, and that might have caused confusion. I'm going to share the version that's just on Microsoft Word, which does have those lined up. Does that sound good? All right.
So I'm okay
not worried about that
because you've got one that's kind of under public hearing in order with the other open meeting. So I'll let that. That's fine.
Okay. And that was just a comment, so we don't need to change any language there. Right.
Maybe that was the only open comment that
I had. Oh, you had a couple others further down. Let's see.
I wrote down some of the
see.
There was some question about site visits.
Give me a
line.
Yeah.
Let's see, line 332. So site visits, section 9B. Page 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your comment was that site visits, may be done so that when you're in the middle of a hearing, you may recess the hearing to conduct a site visit at a private property subject of an application for the commission. Your question is, do you actually do this?
I was going to say,
I don't think
I've been
here, you've been here. I don't think we've ever done it as part of an active review.
It does
say it's a may, so I guess it's not a.
So
that means that actually we have a tool in our bucket that we've never used before. We've always continued.
Maybe we
don't
continue.
Maybe we just
recess.
Yep. Which effectively is the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the
next one is at line 356, 357. We have never done that. Which is so a member who votes in the negative has never been required to state
the reason.
We can
if we change the word shall to may, we're covered.
All right.
I think we actually have done that, right?
Yeah, we have, and we've done, we haven't.
But
We have never required it,
but it's
it usually offers it.
Yeah, I was struggling with what you picked up on.
Shall
versus
Yep.
Are we going to
change it to May?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
doesn't prevent anybody from doing it, and I think we should be encouraged.
But
Not required.
and quite
Frankly,
frankly,
we usually get there during the discussion phase
prior
to the vote.
Fair it out. Next one, and this I think we can resolve pretty easily. Because statute requires it. But the question is, for a motion to pass, it has to be at least the majority of the entire commission, whether or not all members are present.
So
you need 4, regardless of how many are here. So if there's only 4 of you here, you need all 4 to vote in the affirmative, and that's under state law. If we haven't done that, that's probably a mistake. And
We've always done that.
We've done that. Where the difference might be is if we do
the motion
for a procedure.
that
We can't make. I don't think we can make a motion without having
the majority of the commission agree to the motion.
Correct.
We've continued before because we haven't had a
consensus on the poll. That answer your question on that, Dave? Result. That might have been it. Let's see.
back to the may and the shall if you vote denial. I'm just curious as to why you wouldn't put it on the record why you're not why you're voting for denial, even though it's
peer pressure. It is. Well, we've never made it part of the vote. The vote's always yay or nay.
And the
discussion,
I mean, it's been in
the discussion,
we
we usually have pretty robust discussions before we get to the actual
creation
or
mode.
move to vote.
I just
I
wonder,
just wonder on
maybe
Catherine, you get a sense on this, but if you got into something that was
tighter.
tighter close and you got into an
Appeal.
appeal,
You've actually
actually put an official on the record of
why
why you
Why you
denied
voted
an
no.
application.
and now
Now, like,
that's
that's solid ground, whereas the discussion is sort of like, well, I don't like the way this is, I don't like the way, and you take that
abundance.
abundance of the evidence, and then you get a vote, and
Two people.
said no, and
So
It's
what's really
important is what the
decision
decision
is.
says.
The
Right.
decision
Decision needs to have the reasoning.
for it.
That's
So
So if we,
the votes, you mean?
Yes.
individual
Right, right.
reasons.
Like the
like
few
the few
times
times that we voted to deny,
The-
if the staff report wasn't written,
We
we voted deny.
we've had
We've had to come up with a very
clear
clear
finding,
finding as to why we voted to
Exactly.
deny.
Yeah, and that's what's important.
and
Usually
it's
we
we have
have the discussions to get to the point of do we agree with the staff report or not, and then
whether
whether it's a vote,
Move
move to deny or suggested denial, whatever it's.
And the majority of the commission will be agreeing on those reasons for denial. And that's required in the statute.
Yeah.
And it has
And it has to be backed up by
the
the existing
zoning
subdivision regulations, not what we want them to be.
correct.
Correct.
Every
Every decision has to be backed up by that.
So that's really.
But not a bummer. That's the way it
is.
That's the way it is. It is the way it is. It doesn't matter where we are. Every decision has to be backed up by the.
So that, you know,
I agree with you, it is a bummer.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we
We have others?
So we're leaving that as a
Yep. Conflict of interest. That was a fun one.
I think
what
what
I
I
did
did there
there
was
was
because it wasn't
the
it's
same
the
as
other
the
one
other one, I just
referenced
referenced
as
as
into the
defined in section 3B.
just trying to not
That was the consistency. And then there were some questions about recusal.
Number 4.
So yeah, we're on page 10, section 13, C. Recusal.
oh yeah.
So your first question, Dave, was that in terms of shall recuse, a commissioner who has disclosed a conflict of interest and agreed to recuse, or has disclosed a conflict of interest shall recuse. I think that's what it says above, right? Shall recuse from any manner in which there's a conflict of interest. But I think this point is that an applicant or someone else might say, hey, I think this person has a conflict of interest, but that by itself does not require a recusal.
Yeah.
So I think I'm
now coming back. What happens if you get an open
person
many weeks thing? So
section C at line 406 says
shall.
shall.
Shall
Shall
recuse
recuse him or herself
any
from
matter
any matter in which
as a
he has a conflict of interest.
Then you go
to
to
1,
and it
and it
says
says
that a
that
member
can
a member of the
member of the public
can a member
recuse him or herself from a conflict of interest.
so
Any person may request that.
Then
And then
second
the
line
says
such request
shall not constitute a
require-
requirement that the member recuse him or herself.
Well, we
So
just
had
two lines
above said shall recuse.
But just because someone says, I think you have a conflict of interest, doesn't mean you have to recuse. That's someone says, I don't like Dave Raphael. I think he should recuse himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right.
All right.
So it's
So
kind
it's
of
kind of the process that we've done is you get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
You say I don't have a conflict, make your
Case,
case.
so you
but
don't
have to.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, if it's appealed, that will be a point, but
okay.
the way we've operated.
And then
And then should we discuss this was just because of the can of worms that we had several months ago, and I don't care whether
Almost a year ago.
Well, I think going through this clarity that
if
if they step away from the
Commission.
commission,
this
this
does not
does not say they have to leave the room.
it
It
says
says that they then become a member of the public.
Right.
um,
As
as long
long as there isn't,
There's-
there's
This is
this is the one that I have the strong feeling on, so.
I wonder why.
You know, what's going through my head is the select board has handed something down to us, a document, rules for boards to follow.
The related directly to this?
I don't know. I'm curious to see what's
in it.
There is a conflict of interest.
I have
section.
model too. Yeah, no, talk about the other. So that might not jive. And we can look.
I mean, we
can always leave this and
Back-
come back to it, I guess, if there's something else.
Well,
on
I
there.
think that clarifies that they cannot act as
The
a
amendment.
committee member.
So they can't.
I
I think
think that can stand as it is.
Other-
Other question of whether or not they can participate in discussion as a member of the public
with their
their
knowledge,
knowledge that they brought to the table.
I think it,
yeah,
Yeah,
That's the question. we want to answer.
that's the
the one I would like to
Right.
see
Baked,
baked,
because
because
I think
it's a public perception thing.
well, I've
Well,
got
I've got it. I mean, there's another
element.
element to that. Go ahead.
So we can read for you what the select board's conflict of interest policy is, which supposedly applies to all other boards and committees. So after taking the actions listed in Article 6 and 7, which basically says disclosure of conflict of interest. Public officers, whether appointed or elected, shall declare whether they will recuse themselves and explain the basis for that decision. If public officers have an actual or perceived conflict of interest, but believe they can act fairly objectively in the public interest despite the conflict, officers shall state why they believe that. They're able to act in a manner fairly objectively and in the public interest. So that's if you have disclosed but haven't recused yourself. Failure to recuse oneself in spite of the conflict of interest may be grounds for this or no removal from office. It actually don't think says anything about participation. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Public officer who has recused oneself from a proceeding shall not sit with the board, deliberate with the board, participate in that proceeding as a board member in any capacity, nor remain physically present in the room.
Okay.
that's
the one.
Right.
That's important to me.
Yeah.
So that's done. I mean, if that's,
Right.
there's a sentence, add that last sentence.
Add that
All right.
sentence
in there. I think that'd be good.
Another
Another kettle of fish to potentially open. In regards to that.
when
This is specifically to commissioners.
I'm
I'm questioning if that needs to be extended conflict or the conflict of interest to any
appointed
or elected official within the town.
So you're talking about staff as well, or
well,
Staff is not elected or appointed official. Staff is staff. There's a difference. It's an employee versus.
an appointed.
Right.
I'm
I'm talking about,
Your work group.
well,
not so much the work groups. I'm talking about potentially select board, energy commissions, whatever.
if
If they come to
offer
commentary on a application,
they
they are a town official in some capacity.
should
Should there be a conflict of interest
consideration
with
that.
I think it's.
I wonder if what Darren was saying, that this adopted policy, you seem to say it waters down to every board commission.
Right. And I'll have Travis resend that to everybody.
So-
We have a lot of them.
The question being is
If I go,
I go to another committee,
let's
let's just put the elephant in the room. If a select board member
I'm
comes
sorry,
to our table to comment on an application that's in front of us,
and they
have
have
what
could be
could be perceived as a conflict of interest
with
because of a financial tie to that applicant.
should
Should they be recusing them, or should we be entertaining them?
is
Is
that
that a conflict of interest that we should not
entertain?
entertain?
I think
I think it's a question.
The argument's been made in the past that they're not acting in their other, they're not wearing their other hat when they walk in.
my
My argument has been
for all my
special life.
you don't
You don't get to take
hat
that hat off.
You
You wear it,
it's always
always on, because
people
people
don't
don't,
people
think
think
with their eyes.
Don't-
They don't see you
Not in-
not in that role when you're in the room. They see you as a select board member,
planning.
planning commission.
That's worth it.
I mean, I think it's,
we
we had an event last time and it was respectfully presented
and
and
uh
the select board member very clearly stated that they were on their own.
but
But
the point
point being, they were still a member of the select board,
Mhm.
are still a member of the select board, which was voted on by the community. So that's not a mantle they take off without actually stepping down.
Yeah, so I think that the policy of the select board has simply says there needs to be disclosure of any conflict of interest, and then there should be a discussion about immediately should this person continue to participate in spite of that potential conflict, or in spite of the acting as a public official or not. I think there might even be a section in here talking about if you're not acting as a public official, you just state that and say, I'm just talking about myself personally. I think when it comes to an application specifically, if there's a direct interest, whether they're in a butter or in the case of the select board member, they are financially interested in the property or otherwise interested in the property, that to me personally seems like a basis to say, yeah, they're speaking to that specifically. The public office doesn't have anything to do with it, and as long as that can be separated, by them and by agreement of the board and the commission, then that's the whole point of having this policy, is to get it out in the open. So it's up to you as the commission to decide that in your deliberation.
Well, maybe it depends what their conflict of interest they have for themselves. The select board. I mean, if they say you can go and clearly state you're not talking as a select board member.
Right, so there's both. There's
You have to weigh both.
the select board member has to be okay with how they're presenting themselves, and the commission has to be okay with the evidence they're presenting, one way or the other.
If you're feeling like they're crossing that line.
You can just dismiss that evidence.
Well, I think adding that sentence suggests deals with the first issue. Get some clarity.
Should not remain present in the room.
Right.
During the hearing. We had the May up further up. We had that physically present in the room.
It's a living document. We'll have another.
Yeah, you can swipe.
We can swipe at this every day. We have no requirement to do this only once a year. We can do this. So if we get another opinion at some point, we can wipe it then.
Can I ask
a question?
Has
Has there ever been
someone
that didn't disclose
any
communications?
which would on the in commission? Has there ever been anyone say, I want to
tell you this
so
that there's no unintended consequences?
I mean, have you
had an issue
with
that I can remember?
Well, I actually did once. I mean, I disclosed that I had gone and looked at something. It was inconsequential to the effect, but I was under commission and wasn't there. So yeah. No.
So do you talk amongst yourself, or do you tell staff?
Well, that's why we have to discuss line 458, because
our procedures say that we
shall request
at
every meeting
whether
there's been any ex parte meeting.
So I don't know how to resolve
that.
I mean, it's supposed to
be your. It's sure to answer your question. Is it's supposed to be on your
as members.
We're supposed to on our own honor.
Know
when we've had ex parte communications and
deal with
it quicker.
And
if it's something that's big enough,
you
definitely want to go to staff way before a meeting and say, look, I'm not.
Okay, I was at the grocery store
Yeah.
Tuesday night, and I went into depth about the application meeting.
I probably shouldn't sit on this.
Well, the reason I'm asking, but then we were gonna come to it, you didn't have a link. The webinar, and to sign up, they wanted to know, well, what kind of official are you? And I was afraid to write.
But I had
They want to know that.
okay.
Okay, so I'm telling you that's what I did.
That's not expert.
Yeah.
Okay, it's talking about an application.
Oh,
Oh, no.
only
official business.
okay. All right. Is that
Because if I say anything, I talk to staff. They know.
So
How do we fix 458?
So you could either not require that be disclosed and not do that at every meeting, or if you do want to have that disclosure or request for disclosure, we'll just put it on the agenda.
All we have to do is strike that first sentence.
Yeah. It's the question. Do you want to do this or not?
Or you can just say any member shall disclose.
Well, we
any
say that
best
above.
practice.
Yeah.
Say that above.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Really?
get rid of
I don't know that, I mean,
That-
that, it's.
Yeah.
you have to-
Yeah, it's covered in 455 and 456.
Right there.
Strike that first
Sentence
at
at
458, 459, and just
Start with
start with
commission
commission members, and I think it's
covered.
covered.
That way,
That way you're not
shall.
of having to ask it.
I don't like shells,
because
it locks us into a
very
very prescribed path.
Yeah, that was my last one.
Josh
Josh
or
Tom,
you've been
you been
following.
following along with this okay? Any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I've been following along, and I'm fine with the tenor and direction of the discussion.
Okay,
Looks okay to me.
so
So
now let's go
let's
back.
go back to
Patty's
Patty's motion. Are we ready to adopt this as amended? What's up?
I took notes
And-
and my numbers are different.
So
My question
So we were trying not to use numbers, Patty. That's why we're going on the screen and
Okay,
working off.
well, I didn't write.
number, but the rules
of
procedure
procedure,
conflict of
interest.
P, continue,
Continuation of application.
should we
have a
specific
specific end date?
end date?
Say 3 months, 2 months, 90 days.
No.
I'm
just asking.
So the
other question is, should the date that the discussion will resume
when we
when we
say we
have a hearing and then we say, well, the next available
Date.
date?
do we
Do
need
we need to be more specific?
because
The
the
sentence
sentence
Tell you what,
after
if we
that
don't-
says it
Shall
shall be announced
prior
prior to adjournment.
well
And we do that. We say the next available date as determined by staff and applicant.
Because if
Because if we do it the other way and it goes beyond that, staff's not ready, whatever, then we run start.
okay
we're running into-
Duplicating mailings to go,
Okay.
they plan to come to a meeting, we don't have it after, oopsie.
And sometimes the staff, the applicant is not ready to be. on
No
a
problem,
specific
these are
date.
my questions.
Okay,
Okay, the other one is,
what
what specifics
do we
want to list
to make
to make it necessary to recess a hearing
hearing
to
to conduct
conduct a
site
site visit at a property?
another
In other words,
what
what criteria do we
Quantitatively
quantitatively
come up
come
with
up with to say
this
this
needs
needs
a
a
site visit.
visit? We're all going on the 28th
Site
site visit, for example.
It's just-
I mean, it's
It's more organic.
Just our
It's
discussion?
more organic than that. Yeah, it basically just follows the rules of
a
a member making a motion,
it getting
getting
a
a second, and it
Passing,
passing and not
failing.
failing.
Okay.
That's
That's
all.
Hey,
Yeah,
start
we start putting a fence around like what,
First of all,
first of all, we've never recessed a hearing ever since I've been here.
To go off to
to
get one.
get one in the car and walk.
Like,
It's like,
we've recessed.
recessed the hearing and said, we need to schedule one.
We need to
We need to get on the site.
We've
We've never stopped the hearing.
All right.
All right, let's everyone get in the car and go
Yeah.
do this.
Well, I mean, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, my last question is,
let's see
see,
oh yeah
oh yeah,
uh
should we require a site visit?
well
I think you answered it, for the hearing date.
oh yeah
Oh yeah.
or do
Or do we wait for preliminary stage and only require it if it's a major subdivision?
But
you
answer-
answered it.
We
It's
don't have
not
to-
that specific.
We don't have to require a site visit.
Okay.
Site visit is a tool in our toolbox.
and
if it's most often used when
it
an application is not clear, or there's a lot of ambiguity, or there's it isn't able to.
the
The
applicant
applicant
or the
staff
isn't
isn't able to paint a good enough picture
for the commission,
commission.
and we want
We want to go and put our feet on the ground and see what it looks like.
it's
It's a tool that we use.
not-
It's not a prescribed
not a
process. It's not a requirement.
it's a good
It's a
thing,
good thing to do,
but it's
but it's not a requirement.
and it's
And it's usually as a result of a discussion.
sometimes
Sometimes staff has even said in the past, we think you should go see this beforehand.
we might
We might say, schedule it before the meeting.
Right.
uh,
You might not, you might either schedule it or say you as individual commissioners go up and take a look when you get a chance.
Oh.
That can be an easier way to get it done than having to have to schedule a formal site visit.
But we have to let the landowner know if you're gonna walk on the land. So we need to coordinate that with staff.
Yeah.
and one
And one other question about.
coming up I guess
I should ask you guys.
on the not
No, ask, you're here, yeah.
and I
And I
asked
asked on the 28th,
was
I
on
was on vacation, but I said,
yes
yes,
I would
that I would come. And
Everybody-
Everybody else said yes, so is there a limit to how many?
where
Where
the
there's only 7 of us.
so
So no, so even if you didn't have a quorum, you could still go and do the site visit.
We just
look, but we don't talk to each other. You can ask some clarifying questions, and there's a guide sheet that we're gonna give you. Pass out that we do for every site visit.
The site visit protocol is an opportunity for the landowner and or their engineers to be able to present to us their viewpoint. So we can ask qualifying questions of them. There's no debate. We don't get into debates with any members of the public who might be present. Really is just an observation. And again, your feet on the ground. See the land, see the slope, to see how close the trees are.
See where the it's a mini meeting on site. So if the public asks questions, Dusty will usually jump in and say, write that down and bring it back next.
Generally, we don't discuss between commissioners in that forum either, because it's no longer publicly recorded.
Right.
So I mean, there's no back and forth. It's you form your opinions. You can certainly present questions to afterwards. Write your questions down, put things all up. But it's a viewing opportunity to view the parcel.
So with the one you're going on, can you show me where the gravel pit was that you were talking about? That's totally.
Paula, you had a question?
Yeah, and it really doesn't have to do with what you're discussing now. I should have raised my hand before you started, but in most cases where there is a presenter of something, you also you give the people in the audience an opportunity to ask a question, and you didn't tonight, and I was wondering if there was a reason.
Oversight.
Sorry.
It's not like you
So let's finish through on this. So Patty, you have more questions?
No.
that was good. Should we carpool?
No.
Even though we went?
No, you really shouldn't. I mean,
Okay.
that is when we start getting ex parte stuff.
All
right.
You are there by yourself, even if there are all 7 of us present.
So they
They have room to park for our cars.
No.
Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
I can over on the side of the road. You know what? I can park at the apple orchard and run. I'm used to running. I can tell you right now, we're gonna park on the side of the road.
Let's not worry about it.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
We'll order a bus.
I'm walking. I live
Quarter mile away.
Nice.
With
that,
Thank you.
I would like a motion from someone to approve the operating procedures that we've gone through and amended this evening.
I make a
The
motion.
motion, we approve the operating
Procedure
procedures
now.
amended today.
second.
Moved by Patty, seconded by Dave.
Any
Any further discussion, please, no?
Aye.
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Leading the witness, I think.
Oh, that's Mr. Villeneuve's strategy, so that's.
The last thing
we have is, Josh,
you're gonna
you're gonna give us an update on the groups.
Yeah, this is a really pretty quick one, actually. We had our first meeting of the town plan working group, and we had representation from PC in the form of me. And let me see what else we had. We had energy, and we had trails and conservation. So there were 4 of us. I guess we had 2 from trails and conservation. And it was a good time. The meeting was about an hour, and just a lot of brainstorming, and it really seemed like there was a lot of interest, and Darren was there as well, so he can correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was a lot of interest in moving this thing forward, and a lot of broad consensus in what sort of we wanted to do as a working group, which leads to the question that I had and why I wanted this on the agenda. Where we left it at the end of our meeting was we were going to go back to our respective groups and sort of ask about division of labor. Because I mean, I get the sense that this group would gladly write the entire town plan by themselves. And that's obviously not our usual procedure, but it was just sort of to get the sense of the commission of to what degree does the commission and staff and the working group want to divvy things up. I know that's kind of a broad question, but it's just something that I was gonna bring forward, and I don't know if that's a lengthy discussion for right now necessarily, but like I said, I feel like this group would gladly write the whole thing, and that is both a blessing and maybe less of a blessing because we want the PC to be involved and do the usual procedure there. Like I said, this whole thing has been kind of open-ended, which is fun because there were a lot of good ideas around the table about what to do. So yeah, just wondering what people thought.
So
The biggest impact I'm thinking right now is gonna be on staff. And what, I mean, have you guys had a chance to think about this, or is this a new question in front of you tonight?
No, we, as Josh said, this sort of came up as a, what should the process be, at the working group level? And it's more of a, we want to come back to the commission and ask if you have a preference for how that happens. Do you want to have certain things come before you as they're ready? Similar to how you were talking about zoning updates, if someone has something, bring it to the commission, put it on the list. Do you want to have scheduled sessions of like, hey, where are we at with the town plan as of January 2023? Do you want to have other members of the commission working on topic areas? It's floor is the sky's the limit in terms of what you want to do. Is just a status check. And in terms of for staff, Catherine, I don't know if you want to speak to that, just in terms of what's easiest for us process wise.
Yeah,
I think the staff should be involved in that.
Is all the
time, not just checking in, but really be involved in the day to day of all of that. And part of that would be to make sure we're meeting the statutory requirements and timing. And I also think Josh said there were limited. There were great people there, but it's not representative of all the boards and committees. So I think there needs to be more reaching out or involving of somebody from the zoning board, economic development.
Yeah, so
My gut reaction. Everybody can check me out. My gut reaction is to take whatever that a working group like that wants to do and let it come in. But it only comes in as basically advisory. So I mean, it comes in and Josh, to your question, do they want to do the whole town plan? Let them do the whole town plan. But everything that comes in has still got to be filtered through both staff and the PC. So
at regular intervals.
At regular intervals, but I wouldn't even. I mean, it's got to come in. To me, it's. We were asking the different groups to put together their recommendations. So even if you the town plan group did the whole thing. It's still just a recommendation to come into staff and PC. If we're working off from section of the town plan that they've done, we can look at what staff has done as far as this is what we need for statute. Regulatory.
That's statutory.
Yeah, that scared me. So, I think it's still all regular. It's still all advisory to come into staff and PC. And that was what we've been saying right along. I don't think that. Josh, if you feel the group is overestimating what they're doing, I think maybe the message has got to be clear that do any portion that you want.
There may be other groups as well that work on a similar input on a similar section. So to your point, Catherine, if
this is not a representative group of all the commissions, then it's still going to come back to this table. Nothing's going to go forward without coming through the planning commission and staff. So the whole my recollection or my inclination was that all this input from the different commissions was to be committees and commissions was to gather additional public input and those committees and then that come up to the planning commission for review, adoption, exclusion. Whatever modification. I mean, everything's got to get chewed up. And
I would echo the same thing. What I would say is staff absolutely has to be involved. You got to make sure that there's somewhat of a fence around this.
Yeah. I would
appreciate
early
bellwethers or warnings
if it
looks like something
like major
is going to change, like a direction of thinking or something like
major.
That would be good. But I would love to see an iterative process where
staff
this
super
energetic committee
figures
out what they want to do and then puts it through an iterative process where other boards and committees have a chance to take a swipe at it, and then by the time it gets to us, we've got comments, changes, and feedback from the other groups and committees.
And then
we can noodle on it.
the only
The only caveat I would say to all that is if you just make sure it comes to us in somewhat of a
chunk
logical fashion, like we're not starting in chapter 7
like
bouncing around because
kind of get a little ADD when that happens.
So did this group, I'm sorry,
Oh,
this group, was everybody invited from all the working groups and these are the only people who showed up to partake in it, or was it specifically just these people?
So this one, I can answer that. This one was just the initial meeting of the specific town plan working group. And my question was more to what sort of initiative would you like this working group to take? I agree with everything that's been said about an iterative process and it having to come back to the commissions and the boards, because that was the whole plan the entire time. That hasn't changed. I just wanted to know if it was okay for this group to start generating things and say like, okay, here's where we're going. And then, yeah, of course we'd report back. But I wanted to know if the initiative could start with the group because there seemed to be a lot of interest in that.
And then of course, when it comes back to the planning commission, that's public comment. Usually.
Again.
Yes, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry if that was kind of vague when I phrased it that way
No, I just,
in the beginning.
Josh,
I think that the brakes are off. If somebody's ready to run.
Can I
add something?
Yeah.
if we have any of the planning commission members,
if we
have
like
like
an inkling or a desire
some
of some particular area of
town
the town
plan.
plan,
Like I
really like transportation
tonight,
tonight.
and that's my thing. It's
Transportation and zoning.
very
interested.
so whatever
other
I want to tell staff,
and you, but
especially staff, because
if
all
your groups
are
coming
coming
to
to
staff
with
with
their
clear ideas and then
get ready
to present to
us.
us,
If
any one of us has a particular
you know, I want
I
to
want walkable connectivity, transportation all the way, four modes of transportation, I'm there.
So put me on that. Put me.
Patty, I would suggest that you hesitate to be an active participant in the subgroups because you're on the planning commission.
Oh, well, to help. You can't help.
Well, you can help, but I'm talking about. I guess I would caution about promoting your agenda with a subgroup, because the idea is to get the subgroups, to get the other commissions and the other committees, get their input back to the commission. You have a voice at this table.
Oh.
And everything comes through this group at this table. So your voice is here. I would caution you about going and joining one of these subgroups and having your voice be overriding that subgroup. I want to override it. I was just again, but think about this is the role that we've been asking the commissioners to play with these subgroups is more of a liaison, not a driver, not somebody who's promoting their thoughts and their ideas as much. Obviously you can't not present your thoughts, but it really is. This is an opportunity for the other commissions, the other committees, and the public have more opportunity to come in. You're at this table. This is your place to promote to champion your agenda here. So
it was just the research, if they needed research.
Is where they
could. But you already did, because you've got Darren who's on this work group, and you've got Josh who's on the work group. So
I see.
So then it will come back to you.
Yeah, you get a chance
And then you can then massage.
I think it's just this isn't like, oh, we're gonna run away. This is, if we set up a work group of planning commissioners, that's different.
Oh.
That's when we
Subgroup yourself.
Sublet. That's when we subcontract to our own members a task. And then it's go forth and bring something back to the commission. But it's really hesitate before you dive into these subgroups as a commissioner, because you are here. Kind of like the thing we were just talking about.
Yes, it's the difference between advocating and representing the interests of someone else.
Yeah.
And I
think
good
reminder with the town plan is that there needs to be public
input
as a big part of it. So it's not planning commission really even wants. It's what does the public tell the planning commission wants. And I haven't heard much of public
So
that I would
is
think is part of
this working
group
that they're reaching out. Like, I mean, I know they got that. So
One of the questions in the process of when, how, etc.
Okay.
Gotcha. So we
We
can
can't even say have a pizza party.
Involve
the public and have them
decide.
we can when it comes back to your table.
Okay.
Pepperoni.
I'm
To involve.
involved the public.
Gotcha.
We're getting off the rails, Dusty. Paula did have her hand up earlier.
It was just that, I mean, when, there was a lot of discussion of groups and planning commission, groups and planning commission, and coming back with planning commission. But I didn't hear much about, and keeping the public informed and giving the public an opportunity to participate and to.
Again,
That was one of our guiding, the idea.
Well, I know it was, but I wasn't hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pizza party.
Okay. Josh,
Anything else? Is that enough?
you feel that
that's enough to take back to
that working
group?
Yes, I think so. And I do want to add that I just checked on the email that I sent out for when we set up the first meeting. I did email folks on the economic development and housing and didn't hear back from them. So I will, and I emailed, I forget who I emailed, but I asked if they wanted to send someone else from economic development because I just hadn't heard anything from the person who had originally signed up. So I'll keep on that because I totally agree we need the other commissions and boards who are interested, a broader representation. So I just wanted to note that. But yes, I think it's pretty clear the sense of the commission, and I will set up the second meeting and we'll see where it goes. Thanks.
Thank
with that?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
7:57.
Discussion.
All those
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 opposed? You opposed?
You want to keep it going?
Well, I just
I just wanted to say that it's very important that we involve the public.
every
Every stage.
Okay.
Okay.
We are
We are adjourned.